Okay, let's dive right into this explainer. I want you to literally look at the device you're using to take this in right now. Seriously, it's an absolute miracle of modern engineering, right? It's the result of decades of insane exponential growth in human technology. But what if I told you that the very foundation of how that device works is about to experience a massive, unavoidable physical crash? Yeah, we are rapidly approaching an invisible barrier, a strict limit to how far our current technological paradigm can actually take us. So today, we're unpacking exactly what that limit is, why it's happening, and the mind-bending science that might just save the day.
So here is our central mystery. For decades, our tech has been shrinking. Smaller parts mean faster speeds, way better efficiency, and more computing power packed right into your pocket. But you can only shrink things down so much before you hit a literal physical wall. I mean, we're shrinking computer components down so fast that they're practically approaching the size of single atoms now. And as we're going to see, when things get that small, well, the universe just kind of stops playing by the rules we're used to.
Moving on to Section 1, the incredible shrinking computer, from sharp sticks to microchips.
And Section 2, how normal computers work. Let's cover the basics of classical computing. Think about it. For most of human history, our tech was pretty much just brains, fire, and sharp sticks. Then, in the 1960s, we started building these machines to simulate our brain's logic, which kicked off this golden era of shrinking microchips. But to understand why this era is suddenly crashing, we really need to look under the hood for a second. A computer chip is built on a hierarchy of incredibly simple, nested components. You've got modules, which are made up of logic gates, which are ultimately built entirely out of transistors. Basically, no matter how complicated the software is, whether you're mapping astrophysics data or just, playing Zelda, at the very bottom of it all, it is literally just billions of these tiny components doing extremely basic things.
So, what is a transistor? It's really just a simple physical passage for moving electrons. It's a microscopic electric switch. When the switch is open, electricity flows, and we call that a 1. When it's closed, the electricity is blocked, and we call that a 0. That is your basic bit. These ones and zeros combine into logic gates that handle super basic addition. Because all these operations are literally simpler than first-grade math, it helps to imagine a computer as like a giant group of 7-year-olds answering basic math questions. If you have enough of them working together fast enough, they can compute almost anything. But, and this is a huge but, this whole entire system relies completely on that switch being able to actually block the electricity.
Which brings us to Section 3, the 14-nanometer limit and approaching the physical wall.
Now we hit the core conflict. To make those metaphorical 7-year-olds work faster and closer together, we've had to make the parts tinier and tinier. Today, a typical scale for the transistors inside your computer is 14 nanometers. We've engineered these tiny little gates to physically block or allow the flow of electrons. But guys, at 14 nanometers, the walls of those gates are literally only a few atoms thick.
Just to wrap your head around the sheer scale here, a 14-nanometer transistor is 8 times smaller than the diameter of the HIV virus. It is 500 times smaller than a single red blood cell. It is unbelievably tiny. And here's the issue. When you shrink a physical wall down to the size of just a few atoms, the normal rules of classical physics that govern our daily lives, they completely break down.
And this is exactly why the 14-nanometer mark represents such a massive problem for us. Because the switch's blocking wall is so impossibly thin, electrons don't act like physical objects bouncing off a solid wall anymore. Instead, they act like waves. They bypass the barrier entirely through a process called quantum tunneling. They basically just instantly transfer themselves to the other side of the closed switch. Imagine closing a thick vault door to keep water out, but the water just teleports right through the door anyway. If the switch can't stop the electrons, it can't create a zero state, it just leaks. This means our traditional computers completely stop making sense and hit a very real, impenetrable physical barrier.
Let's look at Section 4, the quantum solution, using weird physics to our advantage.
So, what do we actually do? We literally can't build smaller classical computers. Well, instead of fighting this bizarre atomic behavior, instead of, trying to patch up these teleporting electrons, scientists decided to completely reinvent the computer. Let's compare the two paradigms. Classical computing uses bits, strictly set to either 0 or 1. It's totally binary, black or white. But quantum computers use qubits, which can be a single photon or maybe a magnetic field. And because a qubit exists in the quantum realm, it doesn't have to choose between 0 and 1. It can be 0, it can be 1, or it can be a proportion of both at the exact same time. It completely shatters the rigid binary rules of normal computers.
Moving to Section 5, Superposition and Entanglement, the mind-bending mechanics.
So you might be wondering, how exactly does both at once actually help us compute things? Well, it starts with superposition. This is a weird state where a qubit exists in a fluid probability of both 0 and 1 simultaneously. But here is the catch. It only stays in that fluid state as long as it remains unobserved. The absolute instant you test its value, like say by measuring a photon's polarization, it is forced to make a decision. It instantly collapses into one definite state, either 0 or 1. But superposition is an absolute game changer while the calculation is running, because of what it allows us to store.
To really put this power into perspective, let's look back at a normal classical computer. If you have 4 classical bits, they can only be in one of 16 possible combinations at any given time, say 0, 1, 0, 1. If you want to test a different combination, you have to wipe it, set a new one, test it, wipe it, set a new one, test it, right? You only get to use one of those 16 combinations at a time, moving strictly step by step. It's incredibly linear. But by contrast, if you have 4 qubits in superposition, they are existing in all 16 of those combinations at once. And this power grows exponentially with every single qubit you add. By the time you string together just 20 qubits in superposition, they can store 1 million different values all in parallel. 1 million! But wait, it actually gets weirder. We also use a property called entanglement. This is a connection where a change in one qubit state instantaneously changes its partner's state, no matter how far apart they are in the universe. Mind-blowing, right? This means by observing just one entangled qubit and forcing it to collapse into a 0 or a 1, you instantly deduce the exact properties of its partner without even having to look at it.
So how does all this weirdness make a computer? Well, instead of basic logic gates, you use quantum gates. A quantum computer sets up qubits in superposition, applies quantum gates to entangle them, manipulates their probabilities, and then finally measures the outcome to collapse them into an actual, readable sequence of zeros and ones. Basically, you get the entire lot of possible calculations handled simultaneously. It absolutely obliterates the speed limits of classical computing, even if you have to, run it a few times to double-check the final math.
Which brings us to Section 6, the future of computing, real-world applications.
So why does all this mind-bending physics matter? And are you going to have a quantum computer on your desk next year to play video games on? Probably not. While they aren't going to replace our home computers for checking emails or basic tasks, quantum computers will be vastly superior in highly specific, incredibly complex areas. For instance, database searching will take a fraction of the time. But maybe more pressingly, IT security. Right now, your banking data is protected by public encryption keys. It would take a normal computer literally years of trial and error to break that key. A quantum computer, testing all those combinations simultaneously, it could crack it in a breeze, effectively ruining our current security systems. But on the brighter side, we can finally simulate actual quantum physics using quantum physics. This allows us to accurately model complex protein molecules, which could spark an absolute revolution in medicine and disease treatment. Right now, we honestly don't definitively know if quantum computing is just going to be a highly specialized tool used mostly by researchers, or if it's going to be a massive, systemic revolution for humanity that touches literally every part of our lives. It really comes down to this. We have no idea where the true limits of technology are, and there's really only one way to find out.
The 14-nanometer wall proved that hard physical limits do exist, but human ingenuity just found a way to tunnel right through that wall by completely rewriting the rules of the game. So, I want to leave you with this thought as you look at our historical progress from sharp sticks to entangled qubits. Once we fully conquer the atomic scale, what invisible physical barrier will humanity break through next?